welcome to Wood Bear Lake United Methodist Church. I'm Cheryl Larson. I'm the Vice President of our church's United Methodist Women Unit. We're very, very pleased to have you here this evening. I see quite a few familiar faces, and I also see people that probably haven't been in here before, so very, very welcome this evening. Speaker for the evening, Linda Miller. Linda is the Executive Director of Civil Society, which she founded in 1996. Civil Society is the coalition leader for the United States Department of Health and Human Services Rescue and Restore Coalition for the state of Minnesota. Civil Society provides outreach to both domestic and foreign-born human trafficking victims in Minnesota and provides victim-centered, trauma-informed, comprehensive help to human trafficking victims. Civil society is active in rescuing and restoring child human trafficking victims and those who are the victims of child sex tourism in other countries and then brought over to the United States. Ms. Miller has been an attorney for over 30 years and received certificates of appreciation from the United States Department of Justice in 2002 and 2008 for her best practice of reaching out to victims and presenting on that best practice method. She writes and speaks nationally and internationally about international human trafficking victims in the United States. She presented over 175 presentations in the last 2-year period. Linda Miller received the Honorable Warren E. Berger Distinguished Alumni Award for 2008 for the highest values and ethical standards in serving the community. Ms. Miller also received the Soroptimist Ruby Award for 2011. The Soroptimist Ruby Award honors women who, through their professional or personal efforts, are making extraordinary differences in the lives of women and girls. She also received the Certificate of Appreciation from Stassen Building Value Diversity Committee of Department of Revenue for 2015. Please join me in welcoming Linda Miller.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Well, first I want to tell you, even though some of my best friends are here from St. Mary's, the lake, I was born and raised a Methodist. And one of the interesting things is that I often wonder how I really got into this field and feel so passionate about it. And I was dusting off my buffet a few years ago and ran into a book called Once at Woodhull. It's about my father's mother's family, and they were abolitionists in Indiana. And there's a chapter called Hark, Hark, the Dogs Do Bark. And that chapter is about a black man who escaped from the South and was on their property, and the dogs chased him up the flagpole. So they had the choice of sending that man back to the South, where he probably would have been killed and could have been dragged behind horses back. Or they could have done nothing and ignore him. Or they could provide him food, clothing, and safety for a while. And they chose to do the food, clothing, and safety. And so they were on the Underground Railroad in Indiana, which was quite dangerous because it was sort of the beginning of the Underground Railroad. So anyway, I guess that's how I got to be in this position. And I feel so fortunate because the people who we rescue are really wonderful, wonderful people who have suffered and who have survived. And when they get free from the captors, when they get food, shelter, safety, help, they just blossom. So I'm so lucky that the people that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis are not bedraggled, and going to be that way for the rest of their lives. They survive. They do well. They want to live. They want to have a job. And they want to work, succeed, and do well. So it's just a blessing to deal with them and have that opportunity. And we thank goodness every day because we hear of people that are not in that situation. And some of the victims are killed before we get them. Some of them are terribly harmed. We just got a young girl who, when she said she wanted to go to a doctor, they threw boiling hot oil on her. And she went like this. And you can see all along her whole arm and on her face where she didn't get the face covered, the scars from that boiling hot oil. But this young lady is going to survive. She is going to do well. She needs help now, but she's going to survive and she's going to do well. So don't feel sorry for me for my hard work, because I have a very wonderful job working with a lot of wonderful people. So now I'm going to get into my PowerPoint, but I wanted to explain domestic trafficking and international trafficking. Domestic trafficking is where a victim is a United States citizen or a permanent resident. And so they live within the United States, and they may be trafficked to another part of the United States, or they may be trafficked in their own town. That's domestic trafficking. Then there's international trafficking, where someone from another country, born in another country, is brought in some way to the United States and is trafficked here. So those are the two main types of human trafficking. So now I'm going to get into just a few facts and figures so you have an idea about that, and then go into some more of the stories of the wonderful people that we will work with. So these facts and figures are from the federal government. And basically, the federal government says that 800,000 victims, they're saying towards the 800,000 now, are trafficked internationally around the world. Then we have Minnesota, who everyone is shocked when they hear we're 13th in the nation in the number of human trafficking victims. Some people say we're 10th now. I think it might be, and I will give you the reasons why a little bit later on. Okay, so the data is really not, you just can't count human trafficking victims. because they don't line up to get counted. And so it's really hard to know. And the studies, there's so many studies, they're done in so many different ways that they can't be compared. They're just like this, apples and oranges. You just can't count them and compare them. All right, so let's go to the next one. All right, so more than half of these victims are children. Now that is really hard for people to believe, but I know it's true. The value of a child to a human trafficker, who, if the child is sold for sex repeatedly, is $400,000 a year. And so, this business is all about money. I mean, there's maybe some innately cruel people that love doing this to other people, but the real reason is money. So the victims go to where the money is. So they were going to Minnesota because we were one of the states that had the most money. Now they're going a little bit further towards North Dakota and South Dakota because of the oil. And this is exciting to me. I don't like motorcycles, don't tell anybody, but I'm speaking at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. And then what we're doing is we're having a rally, and we're handing out this wonderful poster that a young high schooler made for us. And we're trying to hand it out to the motorcyclists so that they can post it at the truck stops on their way home. Because if I or a lot of you go to a truck stop and ask if they can post this poster, you might not be as well responded to as if you came on a motorcycle. So I'm just really excited about that opportunity that came up. But I am not excited about the fact that our neighbors are even more naive than us. People in South Dakota and North Dakota have no idea how this is going to affect their state, to have this influx of trafficking because of the money. And I talked to law enforcement around the states there, and they say that people just aren't understanding. People that have shelters don't know that these people need shelters, a lot of different shelters. And so there's going to be a rude awakening, and I'm hoping that I can help them understand a little bit of this problem before it just is a total disaster. So anyway, the victims come from all over the world, and so I will show you a pie chart that shows where they come from, and I think you'll be surprised. Okay, so it is the modern form of slavery. Slavery actually has never stopped. I think it started very early in the human beings' history, and it is not any better now. With the internet, the access, the travel, the war, the displacement, the poverty, the environmental disasters, it is not any better now. I think it's worse, actually. So what we have is victims of trafficking are forced to either engage in sexual relations that they don't want or labor.